Welcome to the PharmaSource podcast. Today I'm joined on the PharmaSource podcast by Avencia Sánchez-Mejías, PhD, who is also the CEO and co-founder of Integra Therapeutics. Avencia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Really interested to dig into the story of Integra, why you founded the company and what your journey's been. But before we get into that, it'd be interesting to know a little bit more about your experience, your journey that led to you founding the company in the first place.
Sure. So I'm a scientist by training, molecular biologist. Did my PhD 15 years ago in clinical genetics in the south of Spain, from where I'm from, in Seville. And back in that day, it was very excited to be in this field. We could do many things from families suffering from genetic conditions. We were the first group to bring into this world a child free of disease coming from harboring parents. Also the first compatible baby in the public health system in Spain to not only to be free of disease, but also compatible with a sibling that was affected. So it was a great time to be in clinical genetics, but the reality of treating the affected sibling, for example, using genetic therapies, was a promise that is still today. We are there already. There are several pharmaceutical products that can treat genetic conditions, but it's not very widely available. So it's still an undelivered promise somehow after all these years. So after that, I completed my training as a scientist, doing 2 postdoc stays, one in US at the University of Miami, a second one in Singapore, in the National University of Singapore, working on molecular oncology and doing basic research with the hope of being able to transfer this to society, but very hardcore scientific career. And after being both in Europe, US, and then Singapore in Asia, as a family, we wanted to relocate to Europe, so as close to home as possible. And this opportunity in Barcelona came up. My now co-founder was establishing his lab for the first time as a principal investigator in the University Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona, where we are currently located. And he was coming from Harvard, being an alumni of George Church, who is a pioneer in the use of gene editing technologies for modifying human cells. And he was having this bioentrepreneurial mindset of doing research that filled a gap in the knowledge and the technology that we used for building solutions that then society can use, and somehow also paying back all the investment, especially in Europe, that taxpayers doing in generating new knowledge, and this can pay back to society. So we started with this project that was funded by public taxpayers, I mentioned, in a public university here in Barcelona, and we identified a technological gap in the gene editing technology and gene therapy technology, that it's handling big DNA cargos. So when you need to really write a full therapeutic messages into the DNA of the patients, and you actually need the full coding gene of a large gene that cannot be delivered by other means that today are solved. And we identified this gap, no technology available for doing these gene writing technologies in a safe and efficient manner. And we started to do research around building this prototype that at the end ended up working. And we were quite excited. We published this in the Nature group. And then it was very clear that for this to actually impact the patients and their families and society as a whole, more value need to be brought into the asset for the pharma to have an interest of building the therapeutic products and commercializing them. And the only way was to create a spin-off.
Integra started off then using CRISPR-based gene writing tools as a platform. At what point did you decide that just having a platform, having a technology wasn't enough and you needed to also start developing your own products as well, the spin-off you mentioned?
Yeah, so we use the CRISPR technology. We combine this with transposases for doing the writing bit, because
Mhm.
CRISPR can cut and destroy is what it does best. In our case, we cut and write using the transposase, so we combine both technologies, and this we had it validated with very rudimentary reagents in immortalized cells in culture, which are quite different from cells coming from the patient. And there is a lot of breakthroughs in the scientific community that are similar, and pharmas cannot invest all the resources that take from bringing this breakthrough to actually building a therapeutic product.
Mm.
It will be very costly for them. So what pharma industry does is to get the asset that maybe it's more expensive, but it's much more validated. So they really invest in assets that are very close to clinic or already being tested in patients. And that is what we needed to do, to take our breakthrough that we find in the lab and be able to do advanced therapy products with this asset, with all the modifications in components and all the regulatory aspects that need to be put in place to show that this is safe and has value for the patients, and think of building products for the pharmaceutical industry that are therapeutic products.
Mm.
And yeah, we realized very soon that with the public funding we couldn't do that, and that's why we created the spin-off.
At the moment, then, how many products do you have currently which are at a discovery or preclinical phase?
So we were born in less than 3 years ago, and we
Mm.
invest a lot in adapting the platform for advanced therapy products, knowing exactly the capabilities of the platform in different tissues for
Mm.
in vivo gene therapy application in different primary cells, if we are talking about engineering the cells coming from the patients. And we now started thinking about the product pipeline.
Mm.
So we are preclinical stage. We have currently two products in this very phase for in vivo gene therapy, one in the liver and one extrahepatic indication. And we also have one product for the T cell engineering in immune cell engineering space.
Mm.
But
Fascinating.
this our aspiration is also for the platform to be used by others. So
Mm.
it's a very large field out there, and we cannot build it all alone. So we are open for strategic partnerships in which the partner use our platform for their own products, and this will allow us to impact more patients.
Yeah. And presumably having your own products already in development, that helps them to see the potential, helps to validate your technology.
Exactly. I think it helps us retain the value of the platform within the company as well,
Mm.
and actually push the development forward, because no one is going to the risk this clinical development for us. So we need to show that this can actually cure patients for others to then assume less risk and do the journey with another indication.
That must have been a huge strategic shift for you, going from being a platform to saying, okay, now we're going to start developing our own products and all of the regulatory and the development aspects of that involved. Was that a big decision you made? And how did you, I guess, validate the decision to make that pivot?
Yeah, completely. This is probably one of the most strategic decisions that we had to take, and we think hard and long on which the first indication should be to be successful. It also changed the type of company that we were, and we are in the middle of this transition. We were very technological and hard, and now we are building therapeutic products. So the kind of talent that you need also changed. And one of the decisions for make this transition is how are we going to be sustainable, and how are
Mm.
we going to get these products to the patient as fast as we can, which with the regulatory process it's not as fast as we will like, but we have to think about safety as well. So yeah, thinking about what is needed for the next value point, and for the field and the industry to use this platform for
Mm.
therapies, we make this decision of having at least one product, potentially more in the pipeline, and now we have secure funding for expanding to more than one product, and then we are, as I mentioned, open for also being a platform company that then make the technology available for others.
As part of that journey, from being a senior scientist where you were supervising other scientists, you had a team within academia before, but for going from that to making the leap into creating your own company and building up to, I think it's about 20 people, is that right, at Integra currently?
That's right. Yeah. This month we made it to 20.
Ah, congratulations.
Thanks.
How's that journey been personally? I mean, what have you had to learn? How have you had to adapt by founding your own company versus being within an academic structure?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and it has been a very fun but also challenging journey. It happened very naturally. So as you mentioned, I was a senior scientist. I was managing and supervising a small team of scientists, and then little by little, month by month, I was doing less hands-on work, still supervision, but less hands-on work, and then extending most of my day thinking about the business model, what we need to put in place for this spin-off to be successful and sustainable, thinking about the team that we needed and the different resources that are needed within the team, how to better attract this talent. In the funding side, what is the budget for the next inflation point and then the following one. So not only thinking about the next 2-3 years, but also the longer run until we see this reaching the patients. And we participated in probably the only accelerator program that existed back then in Spain, the Caixa Impulse from Caixa Capital Risk. That they call it accelerator program, but it's actually more than 1 year. So that also allow us to slowly prepare for this transition. And I have to say that the ecosystem in biotech in Barcelona is growing and maturing. And now we have entrepreneurs that have started companies and exited the companies and go back into the wheel. So we got access to great mentors, super generous people that advise us. So it was a transition that during stealth mode lasted for maybe 1.5 years or 2. And at some point I was doing fundraising for most of my day, and it was natural for me to manage this company, especially at this early stage. That what we have done, it's mostly technology development around the platform, but yes, the management skills are quite different from what you learn as a scientist. Also, the communication part, scientific communication is very different for what you need when you're an entrepreneur, and you need to really communicate the passion that you feel about the project and the potential for investors and
lots of pitches. Have you had to do lots of pitches to investors?
Lots.
Yeah.
I lost count. Yeah, lots and lots.
How have you found that? How have you found that whole fundraising? I mean, do you feel like it's a good market for biotech investment right now in Spain?
Certainly, when we started, the market was much more positive, and we have suffered as an industry the 2023 and the slowdown of investment. Also, the money was more expensive, and then there was less money in the market to do investments. But yeah, after the pandemic, we have seen the value of biotech and how this technology is needed to solve very pressing problems that society has and improve the health system. So there is still a good perception in the biotech industry, both in Spain. We have more specialized disease here in Spain now, especially in Barcelona. Also in Europe, the market is not as mature as it is in US, with VCs that can support the whole cycle of the company, maybe even after the last stages and going public. But there is a good interest and good opportunities in Europe, and And even from the public sector, I think that's also differential from what you see in US, and here the public system also invest in the private sector in biotech, and this summer we secure more than 10 millions in funding from the European Investment Bank. That was great news.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, it's a tougher market, but there is still interest.
And how do outsourcing partners play a role, if any? As you're getting to a clinical stage, would you be looking to work with CROs to help manage the clinical trial aspect? How are you thinking about that?
Yeah, certainly. As a small company, and even if we grow to 100 people, we will still be a small company, not a global pharma. I think outsourcing these activities is key because it allows us to better budget the cost of building the products and getting this into the patient. You don't need to have all the experts in-house, and you can use talent that has already gone through the process of doing clinical trials with advanced therapy products. And we are talking about first in class many times with these technologies. So it has its certain challenges from the development, the production of the actual pharma product, the regulatory aspects. So yeah, we subcontract a lot of these activities, including regulatory experts and CROs for supervising and helping in the execution of the clinical trials.
Looking forwards, and I'm sure this must be in all of your pitch decks, what do you think the potential is for this type of technology? I mean, when you look at the total addressable market over the coming years, how big do you think this technology could become?
Yeah, and this is difficult to answer because at the end it's based on a product by product and indication by indication. So we looked into indications that have a very high medical need, that potentially there is no other treatment available to cure this patient, and then penetration can be very high since it's the only available product that can reach the market, and then reaching the market the first also have an impact. But we are talking here that there are thousands of genetic conditions that affect a million of people, and there is only less than 5% of these rare genetic conditions that have available therapy, not only advanced therapy, but any kind of therapy available. And for gene therapy, it's about 12 products approved. So having a technology that can address these indications, also opening new diseases that today are not treatable, can have a huge impact, not only for the patient but also for the cost of the health system, and the cost of society for taking care of some of these patients that are dependent on the community and their families. So yeah, the impact is very high, and that's why there is an interest from the investment market to really support this kind of breakthrough in the whole journey towards making this a reality for patients.
And presumably from the big pharma companies as well.
As well, yeah. We need to do a lot of development, yes, but we are also talking with the pharma companies that are at the end the ones that have the capability to make this available for the patients and commercialize this product.
Any final thoughts on or advice that you could share with aspiring biotech entrepreneurs? If someone's got an idea, something that they want to develop, what would you say to them typically?
So make sure that your idea is an innovative breakthrough, and very few people in the world have something that is similar. Probably being the only one, it's difficult because once all the pieces are there, usually there is more than one group that arrive to the same solution. But make sure that you have something innovative and relatively unique, and that you are passionate about, because the journey is long and it has high and downs. So you really need to have your internal drive to make this a reality, and then surround yourself of very good partners that will be with you during the journey, because it's a very tough work, and much better shared. But yeah, there is lots of examples on how this can be a possibility, and the market is mature here in Europe. And yes, all the best, and think on the final users at the end, that it's also a great source of motivation.
Absolutely. Avencia, thank you so much for your time today. Pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you so much.
Experience the future of contract manufacturing at CDMO Live 2025. Join us at the World Trade Centre Rotterdam on May the 7th and 8th, 2025 for an exclusive event that brings together the sharpest minds in biopharma outsourcing. For 2 days filled with market insights, best practices and partnering. Early bird tickets are now available, so head to cdmolive.com to download the agenda and to book your ticket.